5 years into our marriage, my husband, Julian Hayes, returned from a 6-month business trip, bringing his first love, Dahlia Miller, home with him. Not only that, but Dahlia was supposedly 3 months pregnant. Dahlia's been through a lot. Let her stay here for a while, Julian said shamelessly, standing before me, full of righteous indignation. Looking at his brazen face, it seemed he'd forgotten that the mansion we lived in was part of my dowry. Julian and his entire family lived off my money. This time, I decided I wouldn't compromise. I smiled and made a call to my assistant. Have legal draft the divorce papers immediately. Who does a mere kept man think he is, bringing his mistress home so openly? 1. Today marked Julian's return from his half-year business trip. Early in the morning, I had Mrs. Gable start preparing lunch. I'd asked her to get all the ingredients in advance. Every single dish was one of Julian's favorites. However, when Julian pushed open the door, he wasn't just accompanied by his luggage, but also by Dahlia Miller, his first love. I stood there in shock, unable to process what was happening. Just then, Dahlia gently caressed her stomach and slowly walked towards me. "Sophia, long time no see." Seeing her deliberately displayed belly, a surge of anger rose within me. "Sophia, please don't blame Julian for this. It's all my fault, please don't be angry." Sensing my fury, Dahlia quickly came to my side, smiling as she took my arm. Despite the smile on her face, her words cut like knives. As the saying goes, it's hard to hit a smiling face, especially when she was pregnant. I clenched my fists, suppressing the rage boiling inside me, and turned my cold gaze towards Julian. "What is going on between you two? Aren't you going to explain?" Seeing my anger, Julian quickly stepped between us, spreading his arms to block my view of Dahlia. "Dahlia, pick any room you like upstairs. I'll handle things here." Hearing Julian's gentle tone, I was momentarily stunned. In our 5 years of marriage, he had never spoken to me like that. Right before my eyes, Julian carefully helped Dahlia upstairs, his hands supporting her. Even though Dahlia looked healthier than I did, Julian treated her like a fragile family heirloom. I slumped onto the sofa, numbly watching everything, waiting for Julian to come down and give me an explanation. But before Julian's explanation arrived, the doorbell rang frantically. The moment I opened the door, Julian's parents, Martha and George Hayes, rushed in from outside. I might as well have been invisible standing there. They completely ignored me and hurried upstairs. Not knowing what they were up to, I quickly followed them. However, when we reached the second-floor landing, Julian's mother, Martha, stopped and turned to block my path. "Sophia," she began, "we didn't mean to hide this from you, but Dahlia just found out she's pregnant not long ago, and the heartbeat isn't very stable yet. We were afraid something might happen." Her voice was heavy with faux sincerity. "Our Hayes family is finally going to have an heir, and Dahlia is truly devoted to Julian. I hope you can understand her situation and not make things difficult for her." Looking at my mother-in-law's earnest expression, I, usually articulate, found myself speechless. During my 5 years of marriage to Julian, my relationship with Martha hadn't always been smooth, but every conflict ended with me backing down. After all, she was an elder and getting older. As the younger one, I felt I should yield when I could, but I never expected that my repeated concessions wouldn't earn her understanding, but rather encourage their family to become even more unreasonable. In that moment, I felt like an utter fool. Just then, Dahlia walked back towards us, taking Martha's hand with a wronged expression. "Mr. and Mrs. Hayes, Julian and I are truly in love. I never intended to destroy his marriage. I hope you can understand me. Of course, we understand just thinking about my unborn grandchild makes me understand everything." Martha's previously furrowed brow instantly smoothed out upon seeing Dahlia. Her face bloomed into a smile as radiant as a flower. But I noticed that even as Martha beamed, her eyes occasionally flickered towards me. I knew what she was thinking. For 5 years, I had covered all of the Hayes family's expenses. It was obvious to anyone that Dahlia, with her own financial means, could barely support herself, let alone Julian's family. My heart sank. Watching this family push their luck, the anger inside me neared its breaking point. Even a worm will turn. How could they think I, a living person, was such a pushover just because I usually seemed agreeable? Seeing me remain silent, Dahlia's eyes reddened, and she started crying again as she looked at me. Sophia, I know I'm in the wrong, but the baby in my belly is innocent. This child is the continuation of Julian's life and my reason for living. You can treat me however you want, but I hope you won't target my child. He's the most innocent one here. Fat tears rolled down Dahlia's cheeks and splashed onto the floor. Drip, drip, her delicate demeanor was almost more fragile than a wilting flower. Sophia, say something. Dahlia's pregnancy is unstable right now. If anything happens, can you take responsibility? Julian demanded, wiping Dahlia's tears while glaring fiercely at me. Yes, Sophia, Martha chimed in, her gaze fixed on Dahlia's stomach, but her words clearly aimed at me. No matter what, the child Dahlia is carrying is Julian's. For these few months, everyone needs to be considerate. We had been married for 5 years, and during that time, Martha had hinted, both subtly and overtly, that we should have a child. But frustratingly, my belly had remained stubbornly empty. Because of this, my in-laws often gossiped about me behind my back. I never said anything, but I knew exactly what they thought. With Martha's words, everyone's eyes once again focused on me. Faced with their collective stares, I suddenly felt like an outsider, completely out of place. In that moment, they seemed like the family, while I was the stranger. Wait, you've made such a huge decision for me. Didn't anyone bother to ask what I think? I let out a cold laugh, looking at their expectant faces. My husband returns from a 6-month trip, not with a pleasant surprise, but with this massive shock. Not just a shock, but delivered with such arrogance and entitlement. I didn't know if the world had gone mad or if I had. Sophia Campbell, does what you think even matter at this point? We've said everything that needs to be said. What more do you want from us? Seeing my displeasure, Julian stood beside Dahlia, holding her hand tightly, questioning me coldly. Julian, please don't be angry with Sophia. This is my fault. Maybe I should just leave. Seeing that neither Julian nor I were backing down, Dahlia burst into tears again and turned to head downstairs. Dahlia, you're carrying our Hayes family's child. How can we let you leave? Martha quickly grabbed her, shooting Julian a sharp glare. Buoyed by his mother's support, Julian turned his furious gaze back to me. Sophia, say something. Look how you've scared Dahlia. The baby in her belly is mine. If you have a problem, take it up with me. I absolutely forbid you from harming a single hair on Dahlia's head. No, Julian, I can't bear to see you get hurt for my sake. Both the baby and I would feel heartbroken. Dahlia quickly grasped Julian's hand, looking at him anxiously. At that moment, I saw Julian's eyes moisten. And Martha and George, Hayes wore satisfied smiles. It was clear they were very pleased with Dahlia's performance. I couldn't stand watching this family's act any longer. Leaving them with a meaningful glance, I turned, went back to my bedroom, and slammed the door shut. I locked myself in the master bedroom all afternoon, refusing to come out. The sounds of laughter from the living room were particularly grating. Later that afternoon, Mrs. Gable knocked and came in to tell me that Dahlia had wanted to move into my master bedroom, but was stopped by Julian's mother. She said that since you have the Campbell family behind you, and they still need your help with family matters big and small, they can't completely alienate you. She also said, Mrs. Gable, who had practically raised me, knew my temper. She paused, glancing at my expression. Seeing I didn't interrupt, she continued, she also said that all expenses related to the pregnancy should be paid by you. Since you can't have children anyway, you might as well participate and experience it. Hearing this, my face turned ashen. I smoothed my sleeves and asked coldly, anything else? Mrs. Gable added. She said that since you don't have children, all your assets will belong to this child in the future. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. This whole family certainly knew how to scheme. Though furious, I didn't show it. I knew this wasn't the right time. Mrs. Gable asked what I planned to do next. I just smiled and told her to carry on as usual. She brought me lunch. After eating, I sat by the bedroom window, watching the yard below. Julian was taking Dahlia out. Memories flooded back. 5 years ago, also in the afternoon, I had run home crying to my parents, insisting I wouldn't marry anyone but Julian Hayes. At the time, my parents already had someone else in mind for me, the sole heir of the Morgan Corporation. The Morgans were one of the most influential families in River City. Liam Morgan and I had been neighbors since childhood. My parents had always liked him and often invited him over for dinner, but I had never seen Liam in that way. After meeting Julian, my heart belonged entirely to him, and I naturally refused the marriage alliance with the Morgans. I always told my parents that our generation should choose our own partners, and that Liam probably didn't like me either. But my parents argued that if Liam didn't have feelings for me, he wouldn't have gone out of his way so many times to pick me up and drive me home after I'd been out playing. Truthfully, back then, I didn't care whether Liam liked me or not. The day I met Julian was at the student union recruitment fair on the first day of university. We both reached for the same application form almost simultaneously. He politely said, "Excuse me," and gallantly let me have the form. He was wearing a gray tracksuit that day, his eyes clear, tall, with a sunny smile. His hands were beautiful. As someone with a hand fetish, I was instantly captivated. That unexpected encounter made me subconsciously memorize his phone number. After we parted, I added him on a messaging app. When I told him my name, he replied without hesitation, "Sophia Campbell, the heiress. I've heard so much about you." From that day on, I found myself hoping to bump into him on campus, even desperately trying to get into the student union just to be near him. It was love at first sight, and I willingly followed in his shadow. 3. After we got married, Julian volunteered to manage my family's company, suggesting I become a lady of leisure. I didn't refuse. I believed husband and wife should be united. Julian came from a very ordinary background. I thought since he wanted to build a career, I should help him. My parents and my best friend, Rachel Davis, had both warned me to think carefully. Even before the wedding, my parents told me Julian wasn't marrying me purely for love. He was also interested in my family's status. I said I didn't care about that, as long as he truly loved me. After marrying me, Julian's parents started living comfortably. They quit their factory jobs and lived well on the monthly allowance Julian transferred to them. They boasted everywhere that Julian was now a CEO, leading many Hayes family relatives to ask Julian for favors. Some even asked him to arrange marriages for their children, requesting partners from prominent River City families. I wasn't troubled by this situation with Julian's family. I figured since my family was wealthy, helping them out a bit wouldn't hurt. Julian didn't know that the night before our engagement, Liam Morgan had come to see me. He brought a share transfer agreement. He asked me to sign it, saying that if my marriage ever turned unhappy, he wanted me to have enough security to leave Julian without hesitation. He clenched his fists and said earnestly, "Besides the Campbell family, you also have me behind you. If he ever hurts you, I will make him pay." I laughed and told him he was overthinking it. I had always trusted my judgment and believed Julian would never betray me. Looking back now, everyone's warnings were true. It was just that I was blinded by love at the time, completely ignoring everything. After marriage, even though I accommodated him in everything, he still found fault with me, complaining that I couldn't do housework, had a bit of a temper, and wasn't as virtuous as his friends' wives. Back then, I was completely devoted to Julian, even changing my habits for him. He liked me to be home when he returned, so I tried my best to stay home, even researching recipes to cook different delicious meals for him. My best friend Rachel said I wasn't myself after getting married. The heiress who loved shopping and photo shoots was willing to change for a man. Julian's parents were very pleased with me. At every family dinner, his relatives would praise me for being beautiful and kind-hearted. The only person in the family who could find fault with me was Julian. I always thought I wasn't doing enough. Only now did I realize he just saw me as a stepping stone. How could he see the good in me when there was no love in his eyes? 4. And so, without anyone asking for my opinion, Dahlia Miller settled into my home. That evening, Dahlia personally knocked on my door to call me for dinner. After I refused her 3 times, she started crying delicately outside my door. Her sobs grew louder, attracting Julian. She promptly claimed, "Sophia seems to really dislike me." She even cursed at me when I called her for dinner. Annoyed, I opened the door and stared at Dahlia, who was weeping pitifully, looking utterly wronged. Julian rushed forward, pulling her arm with a pained expression, comforting her. "Stop crying, leave it to me." Dahlia conveniently took a hairpin from her pocket and handed it to me. "Sophia, I made this myself. Please accept it. Can we try to get along from now on?" Before she could finish, I cut her off sharply. "In your dreams, who are you putting on this act for?" After I spoke, Dahlia buried herself sadly in Julian's arms. Furious, Julian lunged forward and slapped me across the face. Sophia Campbell, I already warned you Dahlia is pregnant and needs to remain calm. You poisonous woman, are you trying to anger her to death or what? His expression was as if he were looking at the vilest criminal. That slap shattered the last remaining shred of affection between us. I glared at the wretched pair before me, then suddenly strode forward and slapped Julian twice across the face. I used almost all my strength. Julian's cheeks instantly swelled and turned red. He looked at me in disbelief. Sophia Campbell, are you crazy? How dare you hit me? I looked at my own reddened right hand and let out 2 cold laughs. You started it. Why are you getting worked up now? I am the heiress of the Campbell family. Do you think you can just bully me whenever you please? Hearing the commotion, Julian's mother hurried over to mediate. Sophia, Julian was just upset for a moment. Don't stoop to his level. Seeing my expression remained unchanged, she quickly tugged at Julian's sleeve, winking repeatedly. This was the first time Julian had ever hit me. I could see he was also a bit nervous. But perhaps because Dahlia was there, or perhaps due to male pride, Julian turned his face away, unwilling to admit he was wrong. Julian, Martha shouted, knowing that if we continued this standoff, Julian would definitely be the one to lose out. Okay, I admit I got carried out away, he mumbled, still not looking at me. But if you had just come down to eat with Dahlia peacefully earlier, none of this would have happened. His words were hardly an apology. Every syllable blamed me for being unreasonable. My heart instantly froze over. I didn't even go down for dinner. That whole evening, I avoided contact with his family. It was Mrs. Gable, worried about me, who brought dinner to my room. 5 the next day, I slept until noon. Seeing them preparing lunch, I walked out without a backward glance. My assistant at the office told me that somehow, word had gotten out that Julian had returned from his 6-month trip with a pregnant woman. There was a lot of gossip about me circulating in the company. Just half an hour after I left the house, Julian texted, telling me to bring back 2 boxes of bird's nest soup for Dahlia when I returned. He added that I should also buy her some jewelry as an apology gift for upsetting her yesterday. His entitled tone struck me as utterly laughable. I replied coolly, if she wants to eat it, you can arrange it yourself. Just after sending the message, Mrs. Gable informed me that Dahlia had taken all the health supplements my mother had just sent over for me, claiming they were good for the baby. I casually asked, what did they say? Mrs. Gable told me irritably, the Hayes family is thrilled. They said whatever she wants, whatever she desires to eat, she just has to ask. My mother arranged for supplements to be delivered every 3 months, just to remind me to take care of my health. I never thought her kindness would be exploited by them like this. Even Julian's mother, usually aware of propriety, had tacitly approved. There was no need for me to save face for them anymore. If they were going to treat me like this, why should I protect their reputation? I went straight to the office, convened a senior management meeting, got updated on the company's recent activities, reassigned tasks, implemented new strategies, and informed all employees. Effective immediately, I am resuming my position at Campbell Corporation. As of today, Julian Hayes is forbidden from setting foot in this company. The room erupted in stunned silence. I offered no further explanation. After the meeting, I had my assistant publicly announce my latest decision. If the Hayes family wanted their grandchild so badly, they could pay for it themselves, but I hadn't anticipated that Julian's schemes ran far deeper than I imagined. 6. Sitting back in my office, I leafed through the financial reports my assistant had prepared. I was stunned. Julian had been preparing for this all along. He had secretly set up his own company and transferred Campbell Corporation's core business operations to it. Currently, Campbell Corp appeared to be handling the same volume of business as before, but in reality, its only client was Julian's shell company. Julian would negotiate deals externally, then sign contracts with Campbell Corp. As a partner, Campbell Corporation looked prosperous on the surface, but Julian had already hollowed it out from the inside. Essentially, Julian now completely controlled Campbell Corporation's financial lifeline and could sever it at any moment. Realizing this, a cold sweat broke out on my back. It was all because of my excessive trust in Julian that I now faced this disastrous situation. I never thought Julian could be so ruthless. No wonder he had become so arrogant and fearless, daring to bring his mistress back to my home. If I forcefully cut off all business related to Julian now, it would cause his external contracts to default, ruining his reputation in the business world forever. But the consequence would be cutting off my nose to spite my face a Pyrrhic victory. Campbell Corp would not only have to pay Julian enormous breach of contract penalties, but also bear the losses from raw materials piling up in factories. Either way, Julian would come out ahead, potentially achieving financial freedom from the penalties alone. He could then spend the rest of his life squandering my family's money with his white moonlight. I couldn't accept such an outcome. Thinking this, tears streamed down my face. Now, I hadn't just failed myself. I had failed the business my father spent half his life building for me, and I had failed the thousands of hardworking employees at Campbell Corporation. What was I supposed to do now? 7. After dealing with some urgent company matters, I felt utterly lost. I thought retaking control of Campbell Corporation would allow me to turn the tide, to kick the cheating husband and his mistress out of my house. Yet now I found myself practically homeless. My phone, sitting on the desk, hadn't rung once in nearly a day. I didn't know if Julian was aware of what had happened at the company, but he hadn't called. He was probably lounging proudly in my mansion right now, holding his beloved Dahlia, dreaming about their wonderful future. Ring, 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 ring. Just then, my phone suddenly rang. Seeing the word Dad flashing on the screen, my eyes welled up again. Dad, I answered the phone, choked with emotion, unable to form a complete sentence. Sophia, you don't need to say anything. Dinner's ready. Come home and eat. Okay. I forced myself to sound calm as I hung up, my body trembling as I stood up from my chair. The drive home wasn't long, but I stumbled along the way like a toddler learning to walk. Click. When I opened the door and breathed in the familiar scent of home, the tears I'd been holding back finally burst forth. Wah! All the grievances surged up at once, and I broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Sophia, go ahead and cry. Let it all out, you'll feel better. My mother, Alina, came over and held me gently. Growing up, I had always been the little princess of the family. Few dared to bully me, and I rarely cried in front of my mother. My father, Arthur, stood nearby, a smile still on his face, but his eyes held a touch of seriousness. It was clear they already knew about the situation at the company, yet they still tried to appear cheerful for my sake. Stop crying now. You must be starving after such a long day. Come eat, they're all your favorite dishes. Mom led me to the dining room. The table was laden with my favorite foods. Each dish held precious memories of my life in this home. You child, always telling us the good news and hiding the bad. Something this big happened. Were you planning on not telling us if I hadn't called? Dad walked over from the living room. There was no blame in his voice, only the familiar doting affection in his eyes. I cried so hard I couldn't speak. It was only after a long while, when the steam had stopped rising from the bowl of beef soup on the table, that I managed to calm down slightly. It was my fault for insisting on marrying Julian, disregarding your advice. I know you always had reservations about him. I didn't want to add to your worries. My mom said, slightly annoyed, your father and I will always be your strongest supporters. Don't worry about us blaming you. That's right, Dad gently patted my shoulder, a wave of strength flowing into me. Our Campbell family built this business up through our own strength. A small fry like Julian Hayes is nothing to worry about. Worst case, Dad will start over with you. That strength felt like bamboo shoots after rain, resilient and unyielding. Exactly. Mom squeezed my hand tightly. Even a gentle woman like her spoke of Julian with palpable anger. It's not like Julian is the only man in the world. You're still young. It's not too late to fix things since he dared to treat you like this. You can certainly find someone better. I leaned on Mom's shoulder, crying for who knows how long. Cried enough. If you're done crying, let's eat. Mom looked at me gently, without any impatience or urging. Enough. I wiped the tears from my eyes and finally managed a smile for my mother. Knock, knock, knock. Just then someone knocked on the front door. Who is it, so late at night? Dad frowned slightly, glancing warily at the door. Could it be Julian? Mom hesitated, asking uncertainly. My heart skipped a beat. I silently nodded in agreement. I hadn't been home all day. It wasn't impossible for Julian to track me down here. That scoundrel, he actually has the nerve to come here. Hearing Julian's name, Dad seemed like a different person. His usual refined demeanor vanished, replaced by explosive anger as he stood up and headed towards the door. "Dad, let me get it. Julian and I have to face this sooner or later. I can't avoid it." I stopped my father and moved quickly to the door. The moment I opened it, the shock was practically written all over my face. 8. "Julian, you have the nerve to." The words tumbled out before I could stop myself, but I swallowed the rest. Standing at the door wasn't Julian, but Liam Morgan, whom I hadn't seen in ages. "What? I have the nerve to do what?" Liam didn't seem offended by my mistake. Instead, a mischievous smile played on his lips. "Sorry, I thought you were." Seeing Liam after so long, I didn't know what to say, feeling flustered and awkward. The words died on my lips again. This was Campbell family business, and I didn't want an outsider involved. "Who did you think I was? Prince Charming or the Frog Prince?" Liam tilted his head, giving me a playful smile. "Liam's here. You haven't eaten yet, have you? Come in, join us for dinner." Dad hurried over from the dining room. Seeing it was Liam, he let out a long sigh of relief and invited him in with a smile. "Thank you, Uncle Arthur." Liam didn't even wait for me to speak. He bypassed me and walked straight into the dining room as if it were his own home. "Liam, dear, you haven't been over in so long. Aunt Alina has missed you." Mom came out from the dining room, her eyes full of pleasant surprise. From her tone, it seemed Liam visited often, just not recently. I hadn't known that at all. "I was craving Aunt Alina's cooking, so I followed the smell here," Liam replied easily. He went to the bathroom to wash his hands, then plopped down at the table laden with the food prepared for me. "Aunt Alina, all my favorite dishes today. If you love them, eat more, don't be polite." Mom placed a bowl and chopsticks in front of Liam. There wasn't a hint of awkwardness between them. Seeing this, I stood frozen by the door, unsure what to do. "Hey, Sophia, why aren't you coming to eat?" "It's going to get cold." Liam, chopsticks in hand, shot me a bright smile. "You two eat slowly, okay? Your Uncle Arthur and I have something to do, so we won't keep you company." Just then, Mom and Dad, having somehow changed into outdoor clothes, pulled me away from the door and back into the living room. "Aunt Alina, Uncle Arthur, take care on your way." Liam waved casually towards them, not standing on ceremony. "Something to do? What is it?" I still hadn't grasped the situation, looking quizzically at my mother's strangely smiling face. It was getting late. What could they possibly need to do now? "Never mind about us. Go eat, the food's getting cold." Mom gave me a meaningful smile, then turned and left with Dad. 9. Bang! As my mom firmly closed the door behind her, the somewhat lively room fell silent once more. I stood alone in the living room, looking at the familiar yet distant figure of Liam Morgan in the dining room, feeling completely lost. Liam sat at the table, looking me up and down, then sighed softly. "The great Miss Campbell usually teases me whenever she sees me. Why so quiet today?" Liam's words instantly pulled my thoughts back to the past. We were practically childhood sweethearts, having known each other almost our whole lives. Though he was only a few months older, I never treated him like an older brother. I was always the assertive one whenever we met, while Liam would just smile patiently at my sometimes unreasonable behavior. Now, however, all my past assertiveness had vanished. Seeing Liam even made me feel nervous. How can someone so bossy since childhood suffer such a huge grievance after just a few years of marriage, running home to cry to mommy? Liam smiled at my silence, casually popping a meatball into his mouth. "You should retaliate on the spot. Whenever you feel wronged, that's not like the old you used the same energy you used to bully me on him." Only then did I realize Liam must have known what happened at Campbell Corporation and heard about my marriage crisis. Beneath his deliberately casual gaze, I saw a flicker of deeply buried pain. My heart twisted with conflicting emotions. I didn't want him to see me in this embarrassing state. "This is my business. It has nothing to do with you. Finish your meal and go home early." I forced down my feelings of hurt, spoke coldly to Liam, and turned to walk towards my room. But I had barely taken a step when Liam quickly stood up and rushed towards me. "Miss Campbell, I haven't finished talking. Where are you going?" Thump! A warm, strong hand grasped my arm firmly. A familiar gentleness enveloped my heart once again. Back then, whenever Liam made me angry, he would coax me just like this. He hadn't changed at all. Swish! In an instant, treacherous tears welled up in my eyes again. Why are you crying?" Seeing my tears, Liam quickly let go of my arm, looking at me in alarm. "Don't cry. It was my tone just now, I apologize. But my tears were beyond my control, streaming down my cheeks. Liam frantically wiped the tears from my eyes, gently stroking my hair. Do you want to hit me? You know I hate it when you cry. When I was little, whenever I got upset, Liam would gently stroke my hair like this to soothe me. I never thought that Liam Morgan, now a decisive CEO, would still coax me like he did when we were children. Ultimately, Liam and I had a very good relationship growing up. Though only 3 months older, he was much more mature. He used to tell all our friends that I was his little sister and forbid anyone from bullying me. But I certainly bullied him quite a bit. I would even snatch away presents he received on his birthday if I liked them. Once, when he refused to give me a limited edition action figure, we actually fought. Of course, he didn't hurt me, but I scratched the corner of his eye. That time, I cried my eyes out apologizing to him. He was the one injured and bandaged, but he ended up comforting me for ages. After that, he yielded to me in everything. I thought he was afraid I'd hurt him again. It wasn't until my 18th birthday party, when he gifted me an entire carload of presents, that he mumbled something ambiguous. Actually, I don't just see you as a sister. At the time, I didn't grasp the true meaning of his words and even teased him, a grown boy, for gifting 1,000 paper cranes. Memories of the past flashed through my mind like a movie reel. I could no longer hold back the grief inside. I collapsed onto Liam's shoulder and wept uncontrollably. All the pain and suffering I had endured over the years seemed to find an outlet in that moment. And he didn't put on any domineering CEO airs. Just like before, he held me gently. Cry, let it all out. After you cry, everything will be okay. 10. That night, Liam stayed for dinner at my parents' house. We talked for a long time. About my life after marrying Julian, about Julian bringing his white moonlight home. About when I started relinquishing control, to the point where Campbell Corporation was now completely hollowed out by Julian. In those few short hours, it felt like we caught up on all the years we hadn't spoken. And Liam transformed into the perfect listener, smiling gently at me, never once hinting that I was rambling. It wasn't until nearly midnight that my phone, silent all day, suddenly rang. That's right. Julian couldn't hold out any longer and finally called me. I held the phone, glancing at Liam sitting across from me. His earlier gentle listening demeanor vanished, replaced by a steely gaze. He gave me a slight nod. In that moment, I saw the chilling coldness in his eyes. Sophia Campbell, where did you disappear to while buying bird's nest soup? Don't you know there's a pregnant woman at home waiting for you? Julian's voice on the other end was furious, demanding, showing no consideration for my feelings. On the phone, my status in the family seemed lower than even the household staff. If you want bird's nest soup, buy it yourself. I'm not Julian Hayes' servant, and you have no right to demand anything from me, I replied coldly into the phone. Sophia Campbell, you've grown wings, haven't you? Daring to speak to me like that? Do you ever want to come back to this house? Julian was clearly taken aback by my response. After a moment's pause, he questioned me sharply. Julian, before you say that, think carefully. Whose house are you living in right now? Whose money are you eating, drinking, and spending? I retorted with a cold laugh. Fine, Sophia Campbell, I see we can't make this work anymore. If you have the guts, don't come back home, you'll regret this day. Beep, beep, beep. Before I could reply, Julian hung up, leaving me holding the phone, lost in thought. I knew that this phone call marked the definitive break between Julian and me. Tears welled in my eyes. I looked despairingly at Liam sitting opposite me, my body trembling uncontrollably. Liam, what should I do? That ungrateful bastard, how dare he bully someone to this extent? Liam clenched his fists, his eyes fixed coldly on the phone in my hand. He ground his teeth. Don't worry, give me one night. I want to see exactly who will regret this. You, what are you going to do? I looked at the somewhat unfamiliar intensity in Liam's face, a chill running down my spine. His expression was filled with murderous intent. Rest assured, I won't do anything rash. I'll just make Julian feel pain. Heart-wrenching pain, 11. After hanging up, I leaned against Liam's shoulder and drifted off to sleep. That night, I slept soundly. It was the most peaceful night's sleep I'd had since getting married. Not just because I was back in my familiar childhood home, but also because Liam was there beside me. Nothing happened between us. He just sat by the bedside, holding my hand tightly. When I woke up again, I saw Liam sitting by the bed with heavy dark circles under his eyes. You didn't sleep all night? I sat up abruptly, realizing I'd fallen asleep yesterday without even changing my clothes. Right. But I handled a lot of things last night, so I didn't have time to sleep anyway. Liam gave me an innocent smile. The ruthless CEO from last night seemingly vanished again. I'm so sorry. I was so tired yesterday, I just fell asleep. I tidied my messy clothes and hair, feeling incredibly embarrassed. Why be embarrassed? It's not like I haven't seen you sleep before. Liam gave a roguish grin, pulling my thoughts back to the past again. When we were little, our families often traveled together, and we frequently shared a bed. Back then, just like now, whenever I opened my eyes, I'd see Liam's small eyes staring intently at my face. It felt like yesterday. You pervert, what nonsense are you talking? My face flushed red, and I threw the pillow at his face. All right, I won't tease you anymore. I've arranged most things. I need to go back to the office now. Wait for my signal before you go back home. Liam stood up, straightened his clothes, and looked at me seriously. What did you arrange? I asked curiously. Good things come to those who wait. You'll find out soon enough. Liam gently patted my hair, gave me a sweet smile, and turned to leave. As Liam's figure disappeared, the warm house fell silent once more. Before I could fully emerge from the warmth Liam had brought, I received another call from Julian. Sophia Campbell, I'm giving you one last chance. Come home right now, or I will make you regret it for the rest of your life. Julian, the biggest regret of my life was marrying you, I replied coldly into the phone. Fine, then don't regret this. As Julian spoke these words, I heard a crashing sound through the phone. Sir, please calm down. That's the blue and white porcelain vase Mrs. Hayes made herself. Following Mrs. Gable's cry, my heart clenched. Crash before Mrs. Gable could finish, another sharp sound came through the phone. Oh dear, sir, that's the oil painting Madam painted herself. How could you throw the frame on the floor too? Thump. Sir, these are the paints Madam uses for her art. She mixed these colors herself. You can't mix them all together. Crack. Mr. Hayes, Madam, had this easel specially bought from abroad. It's one of a kind in the world, and you just snapped it by stepping on it. The phone receiver kept transmitting shattering sounds. With each noise, my heart ached fiercely. To marry Julian, I, an art student, gave up my dreams and rejected the opportunity to study abroad. Both my foreign university and my professors and classmates deeply regretted my decision. Yet I firmly believed my choice was right. In this moment, I regretted my past blind confidence. Julian was smashing the artworks I had designed and created myself over the years. Though just bottles and paintings, each piece contained my blood, sweat, and tears. Some exquisite pieces had even been exhibited in offline art shows. People had offered high prices for some of them, but I refused each offer. I cherished them like my own children. Now these treasures were being ruthlessly destroyed by Julian. Sir, you can't do this. This is all Madam's hard work. Mrs. Gable's voice was strained with helplessness over the phone. Even through the receiver, I could feel her desperation. Sophia Campbell, I'm asking you one last time, are you coming home or not? Julian roared into the phone, delivering what felt like an ultimatum. Fine, you wait. I'll be home immediately. I clenched my fists secretly, grinding my teeth as I spoke. 12. By the time I drove back to the mansion, it was nearly noon. Sitting in the car, I glanced at my phone. Still no message from Liam. I knew that right now, I couldn't rely on anyone else. I had to face this challenge alone. Before getting out of the car, I made a call to my assistant at the company, gave her a few final instructions, and only then pushed open the mansion door. As soon as I entered, I saw Julian sitting sullenly in the living room, glaring in my direction without a word. Seeing me return, Mrs. Gable quickly pulled me into a room. Sophia, you're finally back. You don't know, last night when you didn't come home, that woman threw a tantrum demanding bird's nest soup. It kept everyone up until the middle of the night. So Julian called me in the dead of night just because of that woman's unreasonable demands. I looked speechlessly towards Julian sitting on the sofa. We had been married for so long, yet he had never acted so frantic for my sake, not even once. Yes, and I suspect that woman realized we servants don't like her either, so she started making snide remarks to us early this morning, acting like we all owe her thousands. Mrs. Gable shot a disgusted look at Julian on the sofa, arms crossed. If I wasn't brought here by your family, I would have quit today. Earlier today, after hanging up on Julian, I had called Mrs. Gable separately. What had just happened was too extreme. I worried she couldn't handle it, so I told her to stay calm and hold on until I got home. As the saying goes, pride comes before a fall. Looking at the devastation in my room, my beloved creations scattered across the floor, shattered to pieces, I silently bent down and, with Mrs. Gable, cleaned up the mess. Seeing the oil painting I had spent nearly 6 months pouring my heart into, now covered in dirty footprints, I knew I couldn't wait for Liam's signal any longer. This was the moment for my showdown with Julian. Dahlia dared to trample all over me just because she was pregnant, and Julian stood by, allowing it all to happen. For that alone, I could never forgive this despicable pair. 13. After dealing with the mess upstairs, I took several slightly yellowed receipts from the safe, folded them, and put them in my pocket. Gathering my thoughts briefly, I went downstairs to find Julian. Seeing me come down, Julian remained seated on the sofa, watching me impassively. I didn't stand on ceremony either, plopping down right in front of him, glaring. The slap marks on his face were still clearly visible. Before I could speak, he burst out angrily, "Sophia Campbell, you finally decided to come home?" I couldn't help but chuckle. I looked up at him and retorted, "This is my house. I can come back whenever I want. What business is it of yours?" The nerve of him acting like the master of the house, I couldn't believe this was the man I once loved and trusted so deeply. So shameless. "Your house? You married me, so this is my house." Julian dropped all pretense now, glaring at me furiously, utterly unreasonable. "Oh really? Then show me the deed to this house. Let's see whose name is actually written on it," I countered calmly, a cold smile playing on my lips. "Look, Sophia, do we really have to take it this far? Can't we just talk things through properly?" Mentioning the deed, Julian's attitude softened slightly. He put on a helpless expression. "Talk properly? Were you talking properly when you ordered me to buy bird's nest soup for your white moonlight? Were you talking properly when you smashed years of my hard work? Were you talking properly when you threw a tantrum at me late last night?" Julian's shamelessness made me laugh bitterly. I never thought someone could be so utterly devoid of decency. "Sophia Campbell, is this how you solve problems? You're being completely unreasonable." "Julian, Sophia, please don't fight. This is all my fault. I'm the real culprit." Click. Just then, the door to the master bedroom upstairs opened. Dahlia emerged, eyes red and brimming with tears, making her way downstairs like a wilting flower. "Sophia, Julian and I just acted impulsively. I know Julian still has feelings for you deep down. Seeing you two like this breaks my heart." Dahlia walked over and stood opposite me, looking pitiful. "Feelings for me? Julian cheats on me behind my back, and he still has feelings for me?" Dahlia's words pushed my limits again, making me laugh incredulously. Do these scheming women even think before they speak these days, or do they just lack brains altogether? "Yes, when Julian was with me, he often mentioned you, Sophia. I truly envy you from the bottom of my heart." Dahlia, in full green tea mode, clung to Julian's arm, batting her large, surgically enhanced eyelids pitifully at me. I knew those big, sorrowful eyes weren't for my benefit, but for Julian beside her. As expected, after Dahlia spoke, Julian's anger towards me seemed to dissipate significantly. He gently stroked Dahlia's obviously artificial long hair, looked down at her tenderly, and said, "Dahlia, you're in my heart too. My heart is very big. It can hold both of you." Hearing Julian's words, I froze, feeling like I was in a different reality. I didn't know if my moral compass was too rigid for this world, or if the two people in front of me had completely abandoned all moral boundaries. Truly, birds of a feather flock together. I couldn't fathom the mindset of a man who used my money to fool around with another woman and could still say such things to my face. Did I really seem that easygoing on the surface? 14. "Sophia, I know you look down on me from the bottom of your heart. You must be cursing me inwardly. But even if I'm worthless, the child in my belly is innocent." Seeing me frozen, Dahlia wiped away a tear that had trickled down to her unnaturally sharp chin, looking at me pitifully. "This is Julian's bloodline in my belly. Since you can't have children, can't you give Julian a chance to have a child of his own?" Her heartbreakingly fragile appearance almost made even me, her opponent, waver. Was my moral standard really too high? In that moment, I felt like the villainous landlord from the old days, trying to break up a pair of true lovers. Sophia Campbell, Dahlia is talking to you, she's giving you a way out, just agree already. Julian, seeing Dahlia's performance, clearly softened his tone towards me. He looked at me reproachfully, urging, Dahlia's baby is still small, the heartbeat isn't stable, you mustn't upset her. Seeing Julian's anxiousness, I suddenly appeared cold and heartless. It was true, in all our years of marriage, my belly, as Julian said, had shown no signs of life. Sophia, please just agree. Dahlia looked at me tearfully, tears falling like worthless beads. Faced with their relentless pressure, I instantly felt like the outsider in this home. What a pair of moral paragons, you brought the child back here, and now you're forcing me to agree willingly. Does that make any sense? Julian, aren't you pushing things too far? I looked at this self-righteous family and scoffed. What moral paragons? Don't give me that nonsense, just agree to Dahlia's request. Julian's gentle expression vanished, replaced by a cold glare as he commanded me. Julian, maybe I should just leave. I see Sophia still can't accept me. Dahlia's tears burst forth like water squeezed from a bottle, streaming down her face. This ability to cry on cue almost made me envious. If I had such skills, maybe Julian wouldn't have cheated. Dahlia, you're carrying my Hayes family bloodline, how could I possibly let you leave? Julian grabbed Dahlia, who was feigning departure, then shot me a vicious glare. That look was filled with bone-deep malice. This tactic of feigning retreat was seemingly aimed at pressuring me. But in reality, it was pressuring Julian, forcing him to give her official status. Julian couldn't see it, but I understood every word and nuance. Sophia Campbell, say something, don't let Dahlia get anxious if anything happens to the baby. I, Julian Hayes, will never let you off. Julian, please don't talk to Sophia like that, I really don't want your relationship to be affected because of me. Dahlia wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes, bit her lower lip, putting on a deeply wronged yet understanding expression, and turned to face me. Sophia, I know you have high standards and didn't appreciate the handmade gift I gave you yesterday. After you left, I went out and personally bought you these high-end earrings from a jewelry store. You must accept them this time. With that, Dahlia thrust a red jewelry box into my hand. 15. Seeing this scene, Julian, who had been so forceful just moments ago, actually had red-rimmed eyes, tears glistening. He looked at me with such expectation, as if refusing these earrings would make me a sinner in the eyes of the world. I expressionlessly took the earrings. Having been around high-end jewelry since childhood, I instantly identified these supposedly carefully chosen pieces as cheap trinkets from a roadside stall. If these earrings cost more than $3, I'd eat my hat. You went to a jewelry store and carefully picked these out for me. I took the earrings out of the box and even held them up to my ear in front of Julian. Neither of them noticed the cold smirk playing on my lips. Yes, I chose them especially for you. I love these earrings so much myself, I couldn't bear to wear them. This style suits you so well. Quick, put them on and let Julian see. Seeing me hold the earrings to my ear, Dahlia's face lit up with unconcealed joy, her eyes fixed on me excitedly. It was as if the moment I put them on, Julian and I would have a grand reconciliation, and the three of them could live happily ever after. No need. These earrings are too valuable, and you like them so much yourself. I really couldn't bear to take something you love. I placed the earrings back into the box and pushed it back into Dahlia's hands. Dahlia, look, you always wear this ring, so it must not be very valuable. I'll take this instead. As I spoke, I deftly slipped the pigeon egg-sized diamond ring off Dahlia's finger. So? Sophia, this ring isn't valuable. I can't give you such a cheap gift. Let me pick out another one for you in a few days. Seeing me unexpectedly snatch the ring off her finger, Dahlia's face turned pale. She quickly tried to grab the ring back from my hand. This ring was a top-grade diamond Julian had specially commissioned from Africa to celebrate her pregnancy. Costing over $100,000, taking this ring was almost worse for her than aborting the baby. Sophia Campbell, Dahlia has humbled herself this much. Don't push her too far. She's pregnant. What more do you want her to do before you accept her? Julian, seeing this, felt his recently suppressed anger surge up again. He rushed towards me, raising his arm high. In that moment, I saw no trace of past affection in Julian's eyes, only pure anger and hatred. It was as if I had become the Hayes family's greatest enemy. I looked at Julian's raised arm with a cold smile, neither dodging nor flinching. Instead, I also raised my arm high and swung it towards Dahlia's face. Slap before Julian could even react, my hand connected solidly with Dahlia's pale cheek. Slap instantly, a bright red handprint bloomed on her face. The sound echoed through the room, loud and clear. 16. As my slap landed, Dahlia let out an incredibly high-pitched, fake shriek. A wave of nausea washed over me looking at her. No wonder she could get ahead. With this constant immersion in acting a skill I certainly couldn't master. Not just Dahlia, even Julian couldn't possibly have imagined I would actually slap her. Dahlia, terrified, threw herself into Julian's arms, sobbing loudly. "Sophia Campbell, are you insane? Dahlia is pregnant." Julian pulled Dahlia into his embrace, looking at me in disbelief. "She's pregnant, but I'm still your legal wife. You repeatedly hit your wife for an affair partner. Who's the one who's insane?" I scoffed at Dahlia, who was acting with every fiber of her being. "Don't you forget, I'm not just Julian Hayes' wife. I'm the heiress of the Campbell family. The Campbell family is prominent. Do you think a kept man like you can bully me?" My words hit home. Julian, rooted to the spot, and Dahlia in his arms, looked so stunned I almost laughed out loud. Honestly, with matching slap marks on their faces now, they looked quite compatible, although Julian had nearly gutted Campbell Corporation. He still showed visible panic after hearing my words. The Campbell family was a major player, deeply rooted in this city for years. How could he know what other cards my family might hold? Yet in front of Dahlia, Julian had to maintain a facade of righteous entitlement. The conflict was written all over his face, making him look utterly ridiculous. "Sophia, Julian didn't mean to hit you yesterday. He was just impulsive. Please don't hold it against him." Dahlia, even after being slapped, forced down her anger and continued playing the pitiful victim, trying to gain sympathy. She had good timing, this young woman. My anger had just subsided after hitting her. Playing weak now could catch me off guard. Anyone else might have been fooled by her act. After all, she knew I wouldn't do anything too drastic because of the baby in her belly. With this get-out-of-jail-free card, she clung fearlessly to Julian's arm, looked at him with teary eyes, and choked out, "Julian, say something to Sophia." Dahlia knew better than anyone that, for now, this house still belonged to the Campbells. If she truly angered me, she wasn't sure if I could deal with Julian, but she knew I could definitely deal with her. Faced with Dahlia's tender offensive, Julian reluctantly lowered his head and said coldly to me, "I'm sorry. I was impulsive. I was worried about Dahlia's baby, that's why I spoke harshly. I hope you can understand." Anyone else hearing this would think I was the one at fault. No need. Your apology is too noble for me to accept. My heart had hit rock bottom. I shot Julian a cold glance, utterly disappointed in him. Click. Just then, the mansion door opened again. Julian's parents rushed in from outside, their expressions grim. "Julian, why isn't this bank card working? Your father and I just picked out the bird's nest soup for Dahlia. We even ate the free samples, but we couldn't pay." 17. Faced with his mother's abrupt question, Julian stared in surprise at the bank card Martha handed him, scratching his head in confusion. "That shouldn't happen. This card is linked to the company account. Logically, it should have enough to buy a few boxes of bird's nest soup and less." Before Julian could finish, he seemed to realize something, his expression turning grave as he looked at me. "Sophia Campbell, did you do something?" "Julian, this company belongs to my Campbell family. This card draws from my company's account. Is it unreasonable for me to freeze a few cards?" I looked at Julian's pale face, a cold smirk playing on my lips, and nodded calmly. Hearing that I had frozen Julian's bank card, the most anxious person wasn't Julian or his parents, but Dahlia standing beside him. She quickly grabbed Julian's arm, her face adopting a delicate expression. "Julian, quickly explain things to Sophia. We can't let our bank cards be cut off because of me." Seeing Dahlia's plea, Julian's sense of masculinity surged. He grabbed my arm and said, "Sophia Campbell, come here, I need to talk to you." I knew Julian was losing face and wanted to drag me into a corner for a private conversation. "Whatever you have to say it here. Your parents are here too, it'll be clearer this way." I yanked my arm free from his grasp and looked at him coldly. "Dahlia, do we really have to reach the point of mutual destruction? Don't say I didn't warn you then, you will definitely regret this." Julian glared at me fiercely, grinding his teeth, forcing out a vicious snarl. Of course, I knew what Julian meant by "you will regret this." I imagined he had already planned a final exit strategy for his shell company. But I stared back at Julian with a cold smile, showing no fear. Regret. Julian, the word regret has never existed in Sophia Campbell's dictionary. Fine, 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 you just wait in 5 minutes. I will make you regret this. Julian pulled out his phone, about to dial under everyone's shocked gaze. But I just smiled coldly and gently waved my hands in the air. Men, whoosh the moment I spoke, the security team I had stationed outside the mansion rushed in, instantly separating Julian and me. 2 guards were particularly efficient, restraining Julian from both sides before he could even react. These security guards were arranged by my assistant after I called her before entering the mansion. I couldn't risk my safety with this morally bankrupt individual 18. Sophia Campbell, what are you doing? Seeing 2 burly men rush into his home, Julian completely lost his composure, screaming at me hysterically. Julian, this is just the beginning. This level of trouble is nothing. I gently smoothed my slightly ruffled clothes and looked at him with a cold smile. Didn't you say you'd make me regret it in 5 minutes? Tell me, how am I going to regret it? Sophia, Julian has always been stubborn but kind-hearted. He didn't mean to hurt you, please. You must stay calm. Faced with the sudden arrival of the security team, Julian's mother also panicked. She rushed over to me, her eyes filled with concern for her son. Mom, I turned to face my hypocritical mother-in-law with a cold smile. If I hadn't prepared beforehand and brought these guards home today, after I froze the card, would you and Julian have let me off easily? Sophia, we wouldn't do what you're saying. My words hit a nerve, and Martha instantly deflated, unable to utter another word. And Dahlia, who had been constantly clinging to Julian's arm and whining just moments before, had scurried off to a corner of the living room the instant the guards appeared, terrified of getting caught in the crossfire. I slowly walked over to Dahlia and pointed at Julian being held by the 2 guards. Dahlia Miller, isn't this Julian your dear brother? Why are you hiding over here now that your brother is in trouble? I didn't mean to hide. I care about him, it's just, I have his baby in my belly. I can't be impulsive, Dahlia stammered, trembling as she looked between Julian and me. Sophia Campbell, if you have a problem, take it out on me. Don't make things difficult for Dahlia. Even though immobilized, Julian showed no sign of backing down, roaring furiously in my direction. Sophia Campbell, I already bowed my head and admitted I was wrong. What more do you want from me and Dahlia before you're satisfied? Faced with my provocation, Julian erupted again. Unsure how else to make me accept the current situation, he dropped all pretense and yelled at the top of his lungs. Didn't I tell you? Dahlia is in her early pregnancy. She can't get angry or be frightened. Can't you just accommodate her during this special time? Can't we wait until after the baby is born to deal with things? I'm telling you, if you make your men leave now, it's not too late. Otherwise, I swear I'll make you and the entire Campbell family regret this. Faced with Julian's towering rage, I calmly walked up to him, looked at his incredibly hypocritical face, and asked coldly, Julian, did I get Dahlia pregnant? You cheated on me with your first love during our marriage, yet you expect your legal wife to yield to her. Let me ask you, on what grounds? What do I owe this Dahlia Miller? On what grounds? On the grounds that I'm your husband, on the grounds that after years of marriage, you couldn't bear a child, on the grounds that Dahlia is carrying my, Julian Hayes's, bloodline. Julian declared this with utter conviction, as if I were the unreasonable one. Ha ha ha, Julian, are you blushing when you say that? There's a saying, what goes around comes around. You, a cheater, are so sure the child in Dahlia's belly is your bloodline. I looked at the incredibly confident Julian and laughed coldly, reaching into my pocket for my ultimate weapon. Then I walked over to Dahlia and gently touched her protruding belly. What? Sophia Campbell, don't you dare sow discord between Dahlia and me. I've calculated the dates this child is mine. Faced with my question, Julian faltered slightly. His previous confidence seemed to wane, and even his speech became somewhat hesitant. 19. It was clear that even Julian wasn't entirely confident about the paternity of Dahlia's child. He stopped struggling, staring intently at me. Dahlia, hiding in the corner, suddenly stood up, pushed my arm away, her face flushed red. Julian, darling, the baby in my belly is yours. Don't listen to Sophia Campbell's nonsense, don't you remember? That night at the hotel. Dahlia Miller, are you still pretending to be pure at a time like this? Your green tea act might fool men, but it doesn't fool me. I cut Dahlia off coldly and walked over to Julian. Julian, do you know why we haven't had children all these years? Why else it's because your womb is useless, you barren hen. What use are you to me? Julian's face flushed crimson as he spat insults at me. Seeing his frantic state, I didn't get angry. Instead, a faint smile touched my lips. Some people blame fertile land when their own seeds are bad. Such people deserve to be cheated on. Sophia Campbell, make yourself clear, what do you mean by that? Julian was stunned, looking at me cluelessly. Swish, I pulled my ultimate weapon from my pocket and held it high in front of Julian. After so many years without conceiving, I suspected it might be my problem too. But I went to several hospitals for checkups, and they all confirmed I'm perfectly healthy. So, after one of our intimate moments, I secretly collected a sample of your sperm and took it to the hospital for testing. Guess what the result was? Julian never expected I would reveal this in front of everyone. He stared blankly at me, momentarily speechless. That's right, it's exactly what you're thinking. Your semen analysis showed 0 sperm, not a single one. I slapped the test report onto Julian's face contemptuously. I held onto this report, hesitant to tell you because I wanted to protect your male ego. I didn't want to hurt your pride. But I never imagined that not only would you disregard my feelings, you'd bring home a pregnant woman. You probably didn't expect this either, did you? The woman you found outside actually cheated on you. That's quite the green hat you're wearing. I knew the devastating impact my words would have on Julian. Even his parents, who had been so aggressive moments ago, were stunned into silence, staring blankly, never imagining I possessed such evidence. They certainly never thought their own son was the infertile one. Impossible, absolutely impossible. I am definitely not some eunuch who can't have children. Julian snatched the report from the floor, his body going limp as he collapsed. The black and white test results stared back at him, forcing him to believe the unbelievable. The equipment is attached to your own body. If you don't believe my report, you can go to the hospital right now and get tested yourself. I looked at the broken Julian and delivered the final blow coldly. Ah, Julian let out a miserable cry. His previous arrogance vanished. He sat slumped on the floor, looking at me with vacant eyes. In that moment, I saw the utter despair of someone who had lost all purpose in life. People live for a reason, a driving force, and I had just snuffed out Julian's. 20. Julian, pull yourself together. This evil woman, Sophia, is lying. She's messing with your head. How can you not see it yet? Just then, Dahlia finally exploded. Forgetting about the baby in her belly, she rushed frantically to Julian's side, grabbed his hand, and placed it on her stomach. Anyone can fake a lab report like that. I could Photoshop 12 of them in a minute. What does this piece of paper prove? Even if it's true, don't you believe in miracles? Even late-stage cancer patients can recover. You're a grown man. Why couldn't you possibly get me pregnant? You're so virile in bed. How could you possibly be infertile? Believe me, touch the baby in my belly. He is your miracle. I had to admit, Dahlia's words were incredibly potent for Julian in his current state. Julian, who had lost all hope for the future, visibly regained a flicker of hope in his eyes. Yes, miracles happen all the time. Why not me? This is my miracle. Julian scrambled up from the floor, looking elatedly at Dahlia beside him. Dahlia, you wouldn't lie to me, would you? Never. You are the man I love most. How could I possibly lie to you? Dahlia tilted her pale neck high, like a proud swan. Good. With those words, I won't regret anything I do. Julian glared fiercely at me again, his voice cold. Sophia Campbell, you cruel-hearted woman, I almost fell for your trick and misunderstood my beloved Dahlia. Beloved Dahlia, are you laying your cards on the table now? I watched the newly invigorated Julian and asked with a cold smirk. That's right, I'm laying my cards on the table. I told you. I will make you regret this. Julian's face regained that hauntingly fierce expression. Holding his phone, he looked at me with a chilling smile. Sophia Campbell, you don't know yet, do you? I've already hollowed out the entire Campbell Corporation. All it takes is one phone call, and I can bring your precious Campbell Corporation crashing down, reducing you, the so-called Campbell heiress, to nothing. Do you believe me? I believe you. Faced with Julian's outrageous claims, I didn't hesitate for a second, nodding calmly. Huh? Julian was taken aback by my calm nod and direct answer. He hadn't expected this reaction at all. The stunned expression that should have been on my face now appeared on his. Julian, the fact that I dare to say these things to you today means I'm prepared for anything. Facing the bewildered Julian, I smiled composedly. Let me tell you, the Campbell family didn't get to where it is today solely relying on Campbell Corporation. Even if Campbell Corporation collapses now, even if the Campbell family falls, it won't take long for me to bring us back, stronger than ever. And let me tell you this. I would rather let Campbell Corporation be utterly destroyed than let you continue leeching off me. Swish, the living room fell silent. Everyone's gaze focused on me. Even Julian, phone in hand, stared wide-eyed in astonishment, speechless. My father-in-law and mother-in-law seemed to have known about this plan beforehand. Although surprised, their eyes held a hint of pride in their son's foresight. Fine, you chose this path. Don't blame me for not turning back once the arrow is loosed. Julian finally snapped back to reality. Just as he was about to dial, his phone, as if sensing the moment, rang first. Mr. Hayes, something terrible has happened at the company, 21. The voice on the phone wasn't loud, but it echoed clearly in the silent living room. Julian froze for a moment but maintained his facade of confidence, asking nonchalantly, Something happened? What happened? You're a grown man, can't you calm down? Speak slowly. Yes, Mr. Hayes. The young man on the other end paused for a few seconds, collecting his thoughts. Mr. Hayes, I just received notifications. Our clients are calling one after another, claiming contract fraud and suspending further cooperation with us. What? Julian, who had just told someone else to calm down, was now stammering, far less calm than the voice on the phone. As the architect of this whole scheme, he knew exactly what suspending contracts meant. Mr. Hayes, not only are they suspending cooperation, they've sent lawyers letters demanding tens of millions in breach of contract penalties. The problem is, we don't have that kind of money in our accounts. The assistant delivering this devastating news remained remarkably composed, detailing Julian's ruin blow by blow. The voice on the phone stayed calm, as if reporting on someone else's misfortune. Meanwhile, Julian's face turned deathly pale, a stark contrast to his demeanor moments ago. Why? We signed contracts. If they suspend them arbitrarily, aren't they in breach too? Julian's eyes widened in disbelief. I heard from these partners that when they signed the agreements, they all believed you had full authority to represent Campbell Corporation. But just now, they all received notice that you are not the person in charge of Campbell Corporation and don't even have power of attorney. Therefore, everyone unanimously believes you used your status as Mrs. Campbell's husband to commit commercial fraud. Some are already preparing legal action and gathering evidence to report to the police. They've returned our contracts, but we still have existing goods contracts with Campbell Corp. And tens of millions in outstanding payments due. If this continues, we'll not only owe penalties to these clients, but also massive penalties to Campbell Corp. Besides, they've all heard Miss Campbell has returned to Campbell Corp. And plans to clean house and regain full control. So, most partners have abandoned our contracts and plan to sign new agreements directly with Miss Campbell next. Mr. Hayes, this situation is beyond my ability to handle. I hope you understand. Clatter. A sharp noise. Julian's phone fell straight to the floor, tumbling several times. Without me needing to say another word, Julian's resolve visibly crumbled. He swayed on his feet, struggling even to stand. Mr. Hayes, did something happen over there? Can you still hear me? The person on the other end must have heard the phone drop and shouted anxiously, yet their tone remained measured, almost eerily calm. They had clearly taken Julian's earlier admonishment to heart. Impressive phone quality, I had to admit. Even after hitting the floor hard enough to nearly shatter, the screen dark, the speaker still reliably transmitted the voice. Lies, these are blatant lies. Didn't you tell our clients these are just rumors? Julian, sprawled on the floor, roared desperately, clutching at the last shred of hope. Mr. Hayes, I did say that. But all these partners received highly detailed evidence proving you don't hold real power within Campbell Corporation. So, there was nothing more I could do. The voice on the phone now held a hint of resigned satisfaction. It seemed this assistant had reached their breaking point. You go to these partners' offices right now, get those contracts signed back or else I'll finish you. Julian was becoming incoherent, yelling hysterically into the phone. "Mr. Hayes, I'm just an employee. I can't take the fall for something this huge. I quit. My resignation letter is on your desk. Let's part ways amicably." Julian's assistant, however, seemed overly calm, coolly delivering their final words before hanging up. Beep, beep, beep. The dial tone droned from Julian's phone. It was the most beautiful music I had ever heard. 22. Who could be so ruthless? Even killing someone allows for a final breath. This doesn't leave me any chance at all. Hearing the definitive news over the phone, Julian slammed his fists on the floor several times, his bloodshot eyes scanning the room as if everyone around him was guilty. At that moment, I knew. It didn't take a genius to figure out this was Liam Morgan's work from overnight. When he left earlier saying I should wait for his signal, he must have been referring to this. "Sophia Campbell, you did this, didn't you?" Julian finally remembered me, standing nearby. He slowly turned his head, his eyes filled with demonic fury. What if I did? What if I didn't? Although I hadn't orchestrated it personally, I didn't deny Julian's accusation, looking back at him with a cold, unwavering smile. "It's true what they say, the most venomous creature is a woman's heart, Sophia Campbell. How could you be so cruel? Before doing this, didn't you consider our years of marriage?" "Ha ha ha, Julian, did I hear you correctly? You're talking to me about marital affection?" I looked at Julian and laughed coldly. "Julian, when you were sleeping with your white moonlight in hotel rooms, did you consider our marital affection?" Even if I cheated, I did it for this family, to give your Campbell family an heir." Julian glared at me, letting out a roar that shattered everyone's perception of reality. "Give the Campbell family an heir? Oh, thank you so much, I don't need it. Keep your kind intentions for someone else." I slowly walked over to Dahlia, who was trembling, still not grasping the situation, and gently touched her belly. "This bastard child, whose father isn't even known, whoever wants it can have it." 23. "Sophia Campbell, don't you touch her." My touch on Dahlia's belly sent Julian into an instant rage. "That's right, you evil woman, stay away from our grandchild." Julian's parents also rushed over, forcibly separating me from Dahlia. Now that they knew I was no longer their cash cow, their attitude towards me became fearless. I remembered the first time I met Julian's parents. They were incredibly warm towards me. They prepared a feast to welcome me, their smiles wide as they accepted the gifts I brought. Now, they treated me like this for the sake of the illegitimate child in Dahlia's belly. I laughed coldly. I couldn't believe this family was still protecting Dahlia's child even now. Did the Hayes family have a throne to inherit or something? "Son, although I don't know what happened with your company, now is not the time to give up. Dad still has one last trick up his sleeve, enough for us to make a comeback." My father-in-law stared menacingly at me, a sinister smile spreading across his lips. Seeing my father-in-law's malicious grin, I instinctively shuddered and took a step back. "Dad, I understand what you mean. The mastermind behind all this is Sophia Campbell. As long as we control Sophia Campbell, make her give me authorization again, I'll still be a millionaire. I'll still be the true master of the Campbell family." Julian's earlier despair vanished, replaced by waves of sinister laughter. Even Dahlia, previously hiding behind Martha, now clenched her fists, glaring at me through gritted teeth. "You shameless bitch, fabricating evidence to drive a wedge between Julian and me. You almost ruined my good life. I'm not finished with you." With those words, the three of them, as if possessed by demons and acting with unspoken coordination, lunged towards me viciously. Caught completely off guard, I was brutally tackled to the ground by Julian. The two bodyguards I brought tried to intervene, but my wicked mother-in-law grabbed their arms. You don't move. This is our family matter. If you want to get past, you'll have to go through me first." Thump. Martha collapsed onto the floor, clinging to the guard's legs, resorting to her usual tactic of throwing a tantrum. Faced with an old woman who might accuse them of assault at any moment, the guards, despite their strength, dared not touch her. One wrong move could lead to financial ruin or even jail time. What working man could afford such a risk? "Sophia Campbell, you have one last chance. Take back everything you just did. Otherwise, I swear, even if it costs me my life, I will kill you today." Julian pinned my arms firmly to the floor, his eyes bloodshot, roaring at me. "Pa, you ungrateful bastard, those things earlier. I didn't do them. It's useless talking to me." Even pinned down, I refused to back down, glaring fiercely at Julian and spitting in his face. Stubborn, till the end, still talking back to my Julian at a time like this. Then don't blame me for being rude. Dahlia crouched in front of me, her face contorted with rage, raising her arm high. Help! Facing the three menacing figures before me, it would be a lie to say I wasn't scared. Growing up, even my own father had never hit me in that moment. I finally understood why Liam had specifically told me to wait for his signal before acting. He had once again anticipated exactly what would happen. I gasped, a flicker of despair in my eyes. Just as I was about to give up resisting, I heard a tremendous crash from the front door. Bang! The mansion door burst open, and a voice that brought immense relief filled my ears. Sophia Campbell is my woman. Let's see who dares touch a single hair on her head. At that moment, hot tears streamed from my eyes. I knew I was saved. Liam Morgan had arrived, 24. Seeing me pinned down by Julian, surrounded by two others, Liam erupted in fury and rushed towards me. This is our Hayes family matter. You can't interfere. Martha, sensing trouble from the newcomer's imposing presence, released the guard's legs and crawled towards Liam. Thud, however, Liam ignored the crawling woman on the floor. He kicked aside the hand Martha was about to use to grab his leg. This isn't a family matter. This is unlawful detention. I can call the police and have you arrested right now. Martha never expected a grown man would actually lay a hand on her. The kick wasn't painful, but it stunned her. You! Who are you? How dare you hit my mother? Don't you want to live? Although Liam and I had known each other since childhood, I had avoided seeing him for years after my marriage to maintain propriety, so Julian naturally didn't recognize him. Seeing his mother fail to stop Liam, Julian scrambled up from me, intending to block Liam himself. I think it's you who doesn't want to live, daring to touch my woman. Thwack! Liam raised his arm, thicker than a baseball bat, and punched Julian squarely in the face. Oh! Julian let out a squeal louder than a stuck pig. Bright red blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. Let me tell you, even if I beat you all to death today, I, Liam Morgan, can afford it. With that, Liam pulled me up from the floor and instantly wrapped me in his arms. Sophia, who was bold enough to treat you like this? Stunned by the sudden turn of events, I was momentarily speechless. I pointed a finger at Julian's father. Go get him. If anything happens, I'll take responsibility. Liam glanced at the security guards, still wearing our company uniforms, giving them an incredibly reassuring look. Yes, sir. These two guards had long disliked the Hayes family, but had been hesitant due to lack of backing. Empowered by Liam's command, they sprang into action like energized warriors. One rushed towards my father-in-law, pinning him firmly against the nearby wall. Let go of my father. This is breaking and entering robbery. I'm calling the police. Julian stared crazily at Liam, then fumbled in his pocket for his phone to call for help. Seeing this, I almost laughed out loud. Don't bother looking for your phone, I said coldly. You smashed it earlier, remember? My words jolted Julian back to reality. His hand froze in his pocket, utterly lost. Go restrain this one too, Liam gestured to the other guard. The guard understood immediately and pinned Julian firmly onto a chair. In that instant, the power dynamic in the living room completely flipped. Just moments ago, I was at a disadvantage. Now, I was safe within Liam's strong embrace. The two most dangerous men were restrained by the guards, leaving only an old woman and a pregnant woman, neither of whom posed a threat. Who the fuck are you, you bastard, barging into my house, holding my woman? Just you fucking wait. If you don't kill me today, I swear I'll fucking kill you. Even pinned to the chair, Julian's mouth didn't stop, spewing curses at Liam and me. His voice got louder, the insults fouler. It hardly sounded like the words of a university-educated executive. He sounded worse than an uneducated old woman yelling curses in the village square. Liam had initially intended to restrain them until they calmed down, but Julian's tirade was unbearable, not just for Liam, but even for me. Hit him, I leaned against Liam's arm, looking up at his strong jawline. This scoundrel won't learn unless you beat it out of him. Liam nodded slightly and ordered the guard holding Julian, $100 per slap. Yes, sir, the guard's spirits lifted instantly. He raised his hand, nearly as thick as a rolling pin, and brought it down hard on Julian's already swollen face. Smack! That slap was harder than the combined force of my and Liam's previous slaps. Julian froze for a moment after being hit, then spat out a thick glob of bloody saliva. Unexpectedly, mixed with the phlegm was a shattered molar. Still, hitting? Seeing Julian spit out half a tooth, the guard paused, looking back at Liam and me. Fuck your mother, you dare hit me. Don't you fucking want to live? Before Liam could answer, Julian started ranting again. Hit him until his mouth is clean, Liam sighed, unable to watch any longer, turning his face towards me. Smack, smack, smack. For a time, the room filled with the crisp sound of slapping. My father-in-law and mother-in-law, witnessing this, lost all their previous arrogance. They didn't dare breathe too loudly, terrified they'd be next. Dahlia hid even further in the corner, hoping we wouldn't see her. This went on for a good 5 or 6 minutes. Only when Julian's eyes started to look glazed over did the diligent guard finally stop. Miss Campbell, I think that's enough. Any more, and this guy might not be able to speak for the rest of his life. The guard lowered his hand, glancing somewhat regretfully at me, as if he hadn't had enough. Julian still cursing. I leaned against Liam, looking coldly at Julian. MMPHH Wawa gurgle Julian, mouth full of blood, uttered a sentence completely unintelligible to anyone present. Though I couldn't understand the words, the tone conveyed 4 clear concepts. Impotent. Fury. But what use is impotent fury? 25. Liam gently helped me onto the sofa, then walked slowly over to the bloodied Julian, a smile on his face. Julian, don't hate me. I didn't come here to beat you. I came here to help you. Help my ass, is this how you help people? Julian swallowed hard a couple of mouthfuls of bloody saliva, finally managing to speak somewhat clearly. Yes, it is. I came to help you remove that big, green hat from your head. With that, Liam pulled a stack of photos from his pocket and gently placed them on Julian's chest. Take a look, these photos have dates and times. If you can't understand this, don't call yourself a man. What do you mean? Julian froze, quickly grabbing the photos. Liam just smiled and said nothing more, returning to my side. I watched Julian through the reflection in a mirror. The very first photo was enough to make his vision darken. In it, Dahlia was laughing and talking with a strange man as they entered a couple's hotel. Their relationship looked extremely intimate in the picture. The next photo was even more explosive, their hotel check-in record. It clearly showed Dahlia's ID number and full name, specifically noting the room type as an electric vibrating bed. Room and the check-in date coincided exactly with the days Dahlia claimed she conceived. Electric vibrating bed. Dahlia, didn't you tell me you were a traditional woman? You acted shy, even when I held your hand you actually checked into a hotel room with another man. And this kind of room? Julian stared at the photos in disbelief, his whole body trembling. Even from a distance, I could almost hear his heart breaking. How could this exist? These are photoshopped, Dahlia, seeing the photos, panicked, shaking her head vehemently. Photoshopped. Do I look like I have the time to Photoshop so many pictures? Liam scoffed, not bothering to engage further with Dahlia. Seeing this, I understood instantly. With the Morgan family's resources, investigating something like this was child's play. It wouldn't even surprise me if the couple's hotel they stayed at was owned by the Morgans. Dahlia Miller, what the hell is going on? You better explain this clearly. Is this the miracle you were talking about? Julian's anger shifted entirely onto Dahlia. He turned his head sharply towards her and roared. It's all a misunderstanding. I was impulsive. Julian, darling, believe me, I love you even though I checked into a room with someone else. He used protection. The baby in my belly is yours. Dahlia burst into tears again, cowering in the corner, trembling. Right, impulsive. I can vouch for that. Except the impulse lasted quite a while. Seems like it started about 2 years ago. Liam smirked at the dramatic Dahlia, showing no mercy as he revealed what he'd uncovered in front of everyone. It turned out this other man was Dahlia's true love. They had been entangled for over 2 years. Even after she got together with Julian, she continued her affair with this man. Dahlia approached Julian partly at this man's suggestion. The goal, naturally, was Julian's money, which they intended to use for their own pleasure. To secure Julian's heart completely, after discovering Julian hadn't had children with me after years of marriage, they took a gamble. Dahlia deliberately got pregnant and claimed the child was Julian's. This way, even if she and Julian eventually broke up, she could still extort child support from him regularly. Who knew such a brilliant plan would falter at the final step? First, I produced evidence of Julian's infertility, and then Liam presented photos of her hotel rendezvous. Now, the truth was undeniable. Truly, even the best laid plans can go awry. 26. Are you telling the truth? Even now, Julian struggled to believe Liam's words. Technology is so advanced these days. A simple amniocentesis can perform a DNA test. You don't even need to wait for the baby to be born. Liam looked at Julian with the smile one reserves for watching a clown, adding coldly, "Since Dahlia is so certain the child is yours, she should agree to a DNA test to prove her innocence, right? And besides the DNA, you can go back to the hospital anytime to check your sperm again. Maybe a miracle really did happen and your infertility is cured." I chimed in, offering an encouraging smile. "Dahlia Miller, will you do a DNA test with me?" Julian clung to this last straw, crawling over to Dahlia, looking at her pleadingly. You don't trust me? Am I worth so little in your eyes? I won't do it since you don't trust me. Let's just break up, go find your own happiness." Dahlia finished speaking, stood up, shoved the kneeling Julian aside, and strode out of the mansion. Knowing she was exposed, Dahlia realized it was better to make a quick exit now than be dragged for a DNA test and face further humiliation. Leaving now allowed her to retain some shred of dignity. With Dahlia's departure, only chaos remained in the living room. The three members of the Hayes family stared blankly at each other, utterly lost. "So, you mean I've lost the baby, lost my wife, and lost my company?" Julian remained frozen, staring blankly at me. "No, you haven't just lost those things. You've gained a very important parting gift." Liam stepped protectively in front of me, smiling at Julian. "Gift? What gift?" Hearing the word gift, Julian suddenly perked up, asking eagerly. Liam looked at Julian and snorted contemptuously. "The gift is that you're about to be saddled with tens of millions in breach of contract debt, a debt you'll never be able to repay in your lifetime, Julian. Is that gift big enough for you?" "Sophia, listen to me. It was all a misunderstanding. My heart has always belonged to you. You can't do this if you do this. My life is ruined." Hearing Liam's words, Julian panicked, scrambling to kneel before me, wailing pitifully. Yes, it's all a misunderstanding. We're still family. How can family do this to each other?" Martha rushed over too, crying and sniffling. "Sophia, Julian knows he was wrong. What young man doesn't make mistakes? Please give Julian one last chance. I believe Julian will never make this mistake again." George also crowded around, trying the emotional appeal. But it was too late. I stopped them with a cold laugh. "Enough, there's no point saying these things now. Julian, the moment you cheated on me, you should have thought about the consequences you would face." Just then, Liam, ever prepared, stepped forward and slapped the divorce papers he had ready onto Julian's face. "Julian, if you have any shred of manhood left, just sign the papers cleanly. Stop putting on this act and begging for forgiveness. You've been married to Sophia for years. You should know her character. Once she makes up her mind, she never changes it. Considering your years of marriage, an amicable divorce is the last bit of dignity offered to you. Otherwise, if this blows up, your Hayes family might not even have a place to stand in the city." Julian held the divorce papers, still warm from the printer, and looked up blankly at me. Although he still didn't know the identity of the man standing beside me, he knew in his heart that even without this man's help, the Campbell family's influence in this city alone was enough to make his life miserable. That day, I watched the Hayes family leave my exclusive mansion, weeping and wailing. I contacted property management and blacklisted all three of them. I never wanted to see any of them near my home again. However, I never imagined that just 1 year of overlooking things would bring me another troublesome, albeit minor, issue. 27. Early one morning, I heard a commotion outside again. At first, I thought it was just neighbors moving or something and didn't pay much attention. But then, I realized the murmurs outside seemed to be about me. Slightly frowning, I walked out of the mansion. There stood Dahlia Miller, holding a stack of flyers, distributing them to the curious neighbors who had gathered to watch the spectacle. "This Sophia Campbell here, she looks respectable, but she's morally corrupt. She used all sorts of despicable methods to destroy the relationship between my boyfriend and me, a dog in the manger. This kind of third party, this homewrecker, deserves to be scorned everywhere. Everyone. Judge for yourselves. This woman, disregarding the fact that I'm pregnant, not only hit me, but also called me and my unborn child bastards. She's not only clinging to her husband at home, but also cheating with other men outside. This shameless woman I really don't know how she has the face to continue living in this world. Seeing this scene, I was momentarily stunned. Never in my life had I witnessed such blatant, public slander. Faced with Dahlia's highly inflammatory rhetoric, even though my reputation among the neighbors had always been good, opinions started to sway slightly. Tusk, 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 I never thought Sophia Campbell, the esteemed heiress of the Campbell family, could do such things. You can't judge a book by its cover. Miss Campbell looks so glamorous, but her actions are so dirty. I told you so. Miss Campbell, managing such a large corporation, yet holing up at home as a housewife all day, there had to be a story behind it. See, wasn't I right? I stood frozen outside the mansion gate, watching the scene unfold, seeing the strange looks from my neighbors. I instantly understood Dahlia's motive. She was undoubtedly trying to leverage her pregnancy, and the fact that I hit her yesterday to generate sympathy and squeeze one last drop of money out of me. Since she knew she couldn't get anything more from Julian, she hoped my concern for my reputation would make me vulnerable to blackmail, yielding enough cash for her and her gigolo to live comfortably for a while longer. Faced with these comments, before I could even respond, a steady voice came from behind me. Everyone, don't listen to this woman's lies. She's the one who destroyed Sophia Campbell's family. She was Sophia Campbell's husband's mistress. Sophia Campbell is the victim. I turned to look. Liam Morgan stood at the edge of the crowd, looking sharply at Dahlia and speaking loudly. After everything was sorted yesterday, I had asked Liam to go home. Although we both knew our feelings for each other, Julian and I were still technically married. For propriety's sake, I couldn't let Liam stay overnight at the mansion. Liam agreed with my decision and left readily, without insisting. I hadn't expected that Liam, after such a busy day yesterday, wouldn't go to his office this morning, but would come back to my mansion instead. Seeing Liam arrive, my heart filled with gratitude, leaving me momentarily speechless. Who are you? Do you even live in this neighborhood? Just then, someone in the crowd spotted the unfamiliar face of Liam and questioned him loudly. 28. This man is the homewrecker Sophia Campbell. Found this is the proof of her affair. Her lover has even come knocking on her door. Everyone. Now you see how disgusting this woman truly is. Seeing Liam, Dahlia showed no fear. Instead, she became even more brazen, yelling at the top of her lungs. She knew that although Liam was physically strong, he was a gentleman and would absolutely not lay a hand on a pregnant woman like her. Rumors could kill. As long as she maintained verbal dominance, no one could touch her in front of so many people. Sure enough, just as Dahlia predicted, her shocking accusation reignited the neighbors' gossip. They looked at Liam, murmuring amongst themselves, an uneasy atmosphere spreading through the crowd. Dahlia Miller, there are security cameras with audio recording right here at the mansion gate. Do you realize the consequences of such slander? I can call the police right now and have you arrested. Under the scrutiny of the crowd, Liam walked confidently towards Dahlia and declared loudly. Others might not have noticed, but I saw Liam clench his right fist tightly, then relax it. He had fallen into Dahlia's trap again. Liam would never hit a pregnant woman. Sophia Campbell, you really have some nerve after doing something so filthy yourself. You drag your lover out as a shield. Seeing Liam standing menacingly before her, Dahlia felt a flicker of fear but put on a brave face, looking at me. Since both of you involved parties are here, I'll give you one chance. If you don't want everyone knowing about your dirty affair, let's find a private place to talk. Otherwise, I, Dahlia Miller, will make sure the scandal spreads throughout the entire city. 29. Dahlia crossed her arms, looking at me smugly, as if victory was already hers. I pushed through the crowd and walked slowly until I stood right in front of Dahlia. Dahlia Miller, you can talk about me, but talking about Liam Morgan? No, slap. The moment the words left my mouth, I raised my hand high and slapped Dahlia hard across the face. Having spent years working out at the gym, the strength in my arms was considerable. The slap left Dahlia's cheeks swollen and red, and a trickle of blood appeared at the corner of her mouth. Liam Morgan doesn't hit you because he's a gentleman, not because he doesn't dare. I looked at Dahlia's bleeding lip and sneered. He doesn't dare, but I do. This slap is for the child in your belly. I don't want him to be born having such a shameless mother. You. Dahlia was stunned by my words, momentarily speechless. Looking at the bewildered Dahlia, I pulled a small red booklet from my pocket and held it high above my head, shouting, "Everyone, Look, this is my marriage certificate with Julian Hayes, even though he received the divorce papers I gave him yesterday. We haven't officially filed with the authorities, yet I am still his legal wife and you. I pointed at Dahlia. During the entire duration of my marriage to Julian, you were fooling around with my husband every day. Even forcing me out of my own home, you used the child in your belly, whose father is unknown, to threaten Julian and me, trying to make me the fool who raises someone else's child. Who exactly is the third party here? Who is the mistress? Justice resides in the hearts of the people. Roar the neighbors who had been judging me moments ago erupted in a clamor after hearing my words. Disgust for Dahlia was plain on everyone's faces, a genuine, unfeigned aversion. Hatred for the mistress is a fundamentally decent human reaction. Just then, Liam walked to my side, pulled out another stack of photos from his pocket, and distributed them among the onlookers. This is evidence of this woman carrying on with another man even while having an affair with Julian Hayes. You are all sensible people. I hope you can discern the truth and restore Miss Campbell's good name. Seeing the photos, Dahlia turned deathly pale, like a snake encountering sulfur. She stammered, how do you still have photos? Did you think I only prepared one set yesterday? Liam smiled, pulling yet another set of photos from his pocket and handing them to Dahlia. My company has plenty of photo printers. If you like them, I can send you a fresh set every day. You're slandering me, I'm going to sue you in court. Though her words remained defiant, Dahlia's body betrayed her. She stumbled backward through the crowd and finally disappeared from view under the weight of everyone's judgmental stares. Now, you don't need to tell property management to blacklist her. I doubt she'll have the face to come back anyway. Liam stood gently beside me, offering a deeply reassuring smile. You're quite cunning, carrying around photos of Dahlia like that, I pouted, agreeing with Liam inwardly but teasing him playfully. Want one? I have more. Liam reached into his pocket and pulled out yet another printed photo. Are you Doryman? How do you still have more? In that moment, Liam and I both laughed, a genuine, heartfelt laugh. 30. After resolving the situation, Liam took me abroad. Not for a vacation, though. Liam told me he could help me pursue the art studies I had always wanted. He knew I loved drawing since childhood and had a strong talent for design, but I had sacrificed my artistic dreams for Julian. Furthermore, as the only daughter, I grew up knowing I had a duty to learn business and inherit the family company. In the years Julian ran the company, I mentioned wanting to pursue art studies several times, but he always dismissed it. He thought I was being petty, calling me a spoiled rich kid, saying I should be more practical at my age instead of chasing empty pursuits. I respected his opinion, so the matter was shelved. Now that the Julian situation was over, I saw things more clearly. You only live once, you should have dreams. Maybe they'll come true. I had only mentioned it casually to Liam yesterday, and he immediately started making arrangements. On the plane, he thoughtfully brought me snacks and earplugs. He remembered I liked quiet and tended to sleep on cars and planes. Unexpectedly, however, I got terribly airsick. He gently cleaned up the mess without a trace of disgust on his face. After landing, my phone showed dozens of missed calls and several messages from my assistant. She informed me that Julian and his family had been causing scenes downstairs at my company building, even attracting media attention. Seeing my frown, Liam took the phone straight from my hand. He stepped aside, made a quick call, then returned and told me, "Leave these troubles to me from now on." Though just a short sentence, my heart couldn't help but flutter. After marrying Julian, I had to handle so many household matters myself. It had been a long time since I felt such consideration and tenderness. Julian had been very busy these past few years. A few times when I had a high fever and wanted him to accompany me to the hospital, he was either away on business or claimed he was too tired, telling me to just go with Mrs. Gable. Even regarding our lack of children, when I repeatedly asked him to go for checkups with me, he always used company business as an excuse, saying he had no time. The label of infertility had been stuck on me for a long time, even though my annual gynecological exams always came back normal. I had carefully tiptoed around Julian's feelings, only to end up like this. I felt deeply wronged. After landing in the new country, Liam took me to meet several renowned university professors. They all highly praised my artistic talent. I smoothly chose a mentor I admired and prepared to enroll. Back home, Julian and his family continued to cause trouble for a couple of days, even getting me trending on social media platforms. I didn't see these posts, likely because Liam intervened swiftly, but I had instructed my assistant to keep me informed of any significant developments. After finalizing my study plans, I treated Liam to dinner. He bought me a bouquet of lisianthus. Seeing the flowers, I froze again. Liam asked curiously, "What's wrong?" I smiled faintly. "You might find this funny, but for years, on every anniversary, Julian gave me pink roses." I had told him I liked lisianthus, but he always got it wrong. Seeing Liam, whom I hadn't seen in years, still remember my preference, I realized it wasn't that Julian didn't remember. He just didn't care enough to remember. The capacity of a heart is limited, and he wasn't willing to allocate any space to me. That night, I drank more than usual, something I hadn't done in ages. Julian always wanted children and had high expectations for me after marriage. I hadn't tasted alcohol in a long time. After Liam helped me back to my room, I thought I heard him whisper something in my ear, but my mind was hazy, and I couldn't be sure if I heard correctly. That night, we slept in the same room. Nothing happened between us. Just like when we were children, I slept peacefully beside him. It was an incredibly restful sleep. 31. After completing all the formalities, I finally realized my dream, attending classes at my desired university. Though I had graduated many years ago, thankfully, I had never abandoned my passion, so I managed to keep up with the studies. After all, studying was far simpler than dealing with the Hayes family. Although I was abroad, I could easily imagine how chaotic things were back home. But Liam shouldered all of it, shielding me from the turmoil. Whenever I had free time, I pondered our relationship over the years. What was it exactly? Kinship, friendship, or love? Eventually, I figured it out. If there truly was love between us, I wouldn't be questioning it like this. One day after class, I was strolling back to my dorm along a picturesque path, as usual. My phone suddenly rang. It was a domestic number I didn't recognize. I had changed my number after going abroad, and only a handful of people knew this new one. My heart already knew who was calling. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. "Some things you just can't avoid. Sophia Campbell, I finally found you." Sure enough, that voice I could never forget came through the phone, making me feel momentarily dazed. No matter how resolute I was internally, facing him again, how could I remain completely calm? "Go on, what do you want to say?" I forced myself to sound composed, asking coldly. "You saw the trending topics on social media. The news from the past few days, right?" Julian asked cautiously, his former arrogance completely gone. "Yes, I saw them." I didn't deny it. The scandal Julian caused was too big. Claiming ignorance would be an obvious lie. "Sophia, I'm sorry. I admit I was wrong about this. I apologize to you." Julian didn't try to argue. Instead, he offered a sincere apology. "You went through all that trouble to get my contact information just to tell me this." I was actually surprised, asking quizzically. Julian apologizing over the phone was a scenario I could never have imagined, not even in my wildest dreams. Wrong is wrong. What's the point of making excuses? We were together for so long. I neglected you. I'm sorry for hurting your feelings. Dahlia and I broke up. I will never have anything to do with her again in this life. Julian chuckled softly, letting out a meaningful sigh. "It's too late. Don't you think it's too late for all this now? Since you know my new number, you must also know where I am and what I'm doing. I won't be returning home anytime soon. You should sign those papers as soon as possible." Julian's attitude genuinely surprised me. I didn't know what had happened back home, nor did I want to know. But whatever it was, it must have been significant to make Julian admit fault. "Is there really no chance for us anymore?" Julian paused, his voice trembling slightly as he asked. "None. The moment you cheated on me with another woman, we were finished. For the sake of our past marriage, please sign the papers. Let's give each other one last shred of dignity," I replied softly, a faint smile on my face, gently refusing him. "Okay, thank you for answering the last question in my heart. The divorce papers you gave me, I've already signed them and given them to Liam Morgan's lawyer. From now on, we have no relationship whatsoever." Surprisingly, Julian didn't get angry. Instead, he continued speaking gently into the phone. "Sophia, I know I wronged you irredeemably in this life. In the next life, I will definitely treat you doubly well. Next. Life. Before I could finish my sentence, I heard a heavy thud from the other end of the line immediately after. The urgent voices of several passersby came through the phone. Someone jumped help call an ambulance. 32. I later found out that within those few short days, countless suppliers had not only terminated their contracts with Julian, but also left him with tens of millions in breach of contract penalties. It was a debt he could never repay in several lifetimes. Julian liquidated everything he could, but how much did he really have to liquidate? In just a few days, Julian went from being the arrogant CEO Hayes to a bankrupt pariah, scorned by everyone. Failing in business, Julian clung to one last sliver of hope, visiting major hospitals across the province to get himself tested. Without exception, he received the same cold, hard answer. In that moment, the perpetually proud Julian completely broke down. And Dahlia Miller? She had secretly aborted the child at a hospital and disappeared without even sending Julian a message. But I imagine that, with the pigeon egg-sized diamond ring on her finger, she and her little boyfriend could probably live comfortably for the rest of their lives. Driven out of the Campbell home, the Hayes family became homeless. Having grown accustomed to a comfortable life, how could they endure such hardship without even a roof over their heads? Constantly bragging about their wealthy connections, the entire Hayes family eventually suffered mental breakdowns and were admitted to different psychiatric hospitals. When Julian called me, he was standing on the rooftop of the Campbell Corporation building. I don't know what was going through his mind when he called, but I know my response might have extinguished the last flicker of hope within him. Reading the updates my assistant sent, my heart filled with complex emotions. If I had listened to my mother's advice back then and chosen not to marry Julian, what would my life look like now? Ding, as my thoughts wandered, I received a text message from my university mentor. Sophia Campbell, your design project from yesterday was exceptionally brilliant. A design firm is interested in discussing purchasing the rights to this design. Are you interested? Of course, we can definitely discuss the details. After replying to the message, I looked out at the pale blue sky beyond the window and let out a long sigh. One must always look forward. I believe my future will definitely be better. 33. My studies at the university were demanding, and I threw myself wholeheartedly into learning. Though I was abroad, Liam visited frequently, keeping me company in this foreign land. It wasn't that Liam wasn't busy. It was that even amidst his busy schedule, there was always a place for me in his heart. I showed him around my campus, took him to quaint local markets, and visited art exhibitions I admired. But whenever he was around, he never let me spend a dime. When I asked him why, he just waved his hand and smiled. How can I let my little sister pay when we go out? People would laugh if word got out. So, in his heart, I was still the little sister who used to trail behind him. Whenever we were together, I felt an unprecedented sense of relaxation and clarity about many things. Looking back now, do you have any regrets? Liam asked me this more than once during late-night conversations, and each time I would smile, look into his gentle eyes, and shake my head. I believe every step we take in life has its meaning. The word regret doesn't exist in my dictionary. 34. The year of advanced study passed quickly, and I graduated with outstanding results. Liam, who accompanied me to my graduation ceremony, boarded the plane back home with me. It's ironic, really. I was married to Julian for so long, yet who would have thought the person who helped me realize my long-held dream wasn't the one I walked down the aisle with? Learning from our previous flight together, Liam was exceptionally prepared this time. Remembering my air sickness, he had brought a huge bottle of motion sickness pills. Looking at the bottle containing perhaps 1,000 pills, I couldn't help but laugh. Are you treating me like a walking pharmacy? How long will it take me to finish all these? Take your time. We'll have plenty of opportunities to fly together in the future. Better to buy extra now than need it later. Liam smiled gently, his warmth touching my heart once again. Liam Morgan, do you really want to be with me? My eyes welled up as I looked at Liam, asking the question that had lingered for years. Liam gently pulled me into his embrace, his voice low and tender. As long as you're willing, I can be with you always. In that moment, I knew I was the happiest person in the world.